This is where things finally start to feel like a real game. We have our obligatory warning screen, then we have our main menu with our title, different game options, and a scary animatronic head that glitches in and out over time. A noisy overlay with different background music and static sounds going off. And here's how I built it all. The warning screen. I started by creating a brand new scene called Main Menu. We're not going to be using the previous scenes that we've been working on so far in this video series. I then created a new panel under that canvas and called it panel_background. This is just going to be a flat black color so that we have something to work with. I then added a text object called text_warning message. This is the part that's going to help build some anticipation. I ended up finding a free use font called Home Video that I used throughout this entire project. It gives this nice pixelated and old school feeling to all the different text overlays. This warning isn't just there to cover our butts. It's also there to build anticipation. The warning text and most of the main menu are controlled by a script called Main Menu Controller. It has references to the text object of the warning itself, and it will handle fading in, holding on, and then fading out of that text. Let's take a quick high-level look at this part of the code so you understand how it was put together. Remember, all the code is available on my website at gleecakes.com, so you can copy and paste it directly into your own game. At the top is a canvas group for our warning panel, or the text. This allows us to adjust the alpha of the text very easily, especially if we add child objects in the future. We have two other variables under the timing section, one called warning fade duration and warning display time, which sets how long it's going to fade in, hold on, and then fade out of the warning message. The method called IEnumeratorCo-warning is the most important one, and that's going to control all the flow and logic of our warning sequence. This coroutine gets triggered in the onStart method at the bottom. Things start by fading in. We use that warning duration we created earlier to slowly increment the alpha up over time. We wait and hold on that message for a good 5 seconds before finally we do the exact opposite, which is to fade back out from an alpha value of 1 all the way down to 0. At that point, we're done with the warning message and we move forward with turning on the main menu. We turn off the warning panel, we turn on the start menu, the flicker face, and the static panel, and then we begin playing our music and noisy static background. The main menu. Remember that when working in Unity, we have a hierarchy of objects, and ones on the top are going to appear below those on the bottom. So I went ahead, created a new panel underneath our warning panel called Start Menu. This panel is composed of 3 different parts. On the left side, we have our game title, followed by 4 buttons. New Game, Continue, Settings, and Exit. Continue and Settings don't work at the moment. We'll hook them up later in the series when all the game mechanics are in place. Right now, New Game is going to load the test scene we just created in the last video, the one that demonstrates noisy overlays and jump scares. Later, we'll add that classic newspaper clipping ad that pops up after you press New Game. On the right is an image holding the head of one of our animatronics. This is the creepy part, where it should stare at you for a while and then glitch and flicker in and out with different visuals. The noise is generated from the prefab we created in the prior video. I just drag and drop that entire game object into the new scene and created a new custom version of the static. I went ahead and added a footer just like in the original Five Nights at Freddy's game. In the bottom left-hand corner, I included a small text object that shows the version number of the game. Right now, we don't have one, so I set it to 0. In the bottom right corner, I went ahead and added a credit line. It says, inspired by Scott Cathon's Five Nights at Freddy's. This way we give proper credit where credit's due, and we also kind of cover ourselves a little bit legally here. The menu scene buttons. As I said before, the script Main Menu Controller handles just about everything in this scene. Let's go over some of the other parts of the script really quickly so you can see how we wired up all the buttons and made them work. For each button, we have a different method. The first one is called onNewGame, which for now loads our previously created scene. We use a string to find the scene that we want to load. You'll need to make sure you add that to your build settings for this to work. Here, we're loading the last scene we created called Noise Test. This will eventually connect to a more complicated coroutine called Play Story and Load Game. This will show the classic newspaper advertisement before we go ahead and start Night 1. The exit button is connected to the method onExitGame. This is going to do a check to see whether or not we're running this in the editor or we've built it out to an actual game. And it will choose either to stop the game from running in the editor or it will close out of the application if we've built it out. Animatronic face flickering. On the right side of the menu, I set up an animatronic face that flickers. This is simply a UI image with a canvas group attached in case I want to use it to control the alpha value. I went ahead and created a script called FlickerFace. Let's go ahead and take a look at how it works. FlickerFace starts with some references. First, the target image. Then, the base sprite. This is the original image we want to show the entire time. Then we have an array of flashing sprites. These will allow us to alternate back and forth between the original base image and random images of it to terrify the player. We have a fade duration range and an idle delay range. And then finally, a flash duration. These all control how long the different parts are up on display. In Awake, we go ahead and make sure our alpha value is set to 1 so we can clearly see the image. In onEnable, we start the coroutine co_run, which is going to handle just about everything in this script. We start by waiting a random amount of time, and then we determine how many times we want this object to fade in and out. We run through a loop where we slowly modulate the alpha value of the image, and then finally we flicker the image to scare the player randomly. We have 3 helper methods that make this all work. The first one is fade to. We take the target alpha value we want to fade to and how long we want it to take. Next we have set target alpha. This just wraps up 3 lines of code that very quickly create a new color value with that alpha value set and then replaces the target image's alpha value with it. Then we have get flash sprite. This goes through the array of different sprites and chooses one at random. The noise effect you see is from our previous video where we went ahead and created a very elaborate static noise system. I spent all that time so I would be able to create this prefab and drag and drop it into any scene and create custom static effects. Go ahead to the previous video and watch that if you'd like to create your own. For this scene, I created a new static set called SS_main menu. This static set contains 11 different frame groups, most of them the same. The idea is to keep replaying the same basic noise and then every now and then do a darker transition or banded noise or something a little bit more intense. Just enough to scare the player every now and then. Creating the noise and audio. The final step, and the one I left to last, was creating the audio. I am by no means a musician. The extent of my musical talents was 3 years of playing trumpet back when I was in middle school. And most of that wasn't learning music theory, it was just playing by ear. I created the static by going into Adobe Audition. I generated gray inverse noise. I then selected very small segments randomly within that noise, and I went to Effects, Distortion to create different glitches. There was a lot of playing around over about 30 minutes until I got something that worked for me. Feel free to copy and paste and then distort the different segments randomly throughout. It helps to add some quirkiness to your audio effect. To create that creepy ambient tone in the background, I used a program called Magix that I had bought back in 2015 off of Steam. I ended up buying it on a Steam sale and it's been sitting in my library since. I barely knew how to use it, but after about 30 minutes of playing around with the different samples, I came up with something that I enjoyed. The issue was it wasn't creepy enough, but I decided, well, let's export what I do have, bring it into Adobe Audition, and then creepify it a bit. I took my ambient sound and I used the effect stretch and pitch to slow things down and make it more ominous. It's very simple, but it's the best a sound noob like myself could do. Building the game. With the start menu finished, we can continue to try playing this in the editor, but I decided to go ahead and build the entire thing out and run it on my desktop. And now that we have a main menu, this kind of starts feeling like a real game. Importantly, we can check off another milestone on our roadmap to creating this Five Nights at Freddy's 2D game. We're almost halfway through this series. All the scripts are available to you for free on glaecakes.com to copy and paste into your own projects. And remember, creative tier Patreon members get access to all these assets as a Unity package. You'll get the static textures, the audio effects, and the sounds. Huge thank you to all the subscribers to both my YouTube channel and my Patreon site. You make this happen, and you're the reason that I continue to create these videos. What's happening next time? Well, we're going to get right into the heart of gameplay. We're going to create the win condition for Five Nights at Freddy's. We're going to start at midnight and then slowly increment all the way up to 6 a.m. And if you get through the night, you win. If you don't, well, we already have the game over screen programmed, don't we? Thank you everyone, so long and goodbye.